Ladies and gentlemen, there's a hidden trap, clearly visible yet easily overlooked. It seems harmless, feels good, and is convenient, fast, simple, and everywhere. Once you get used to it, you stop questioning its presence. It fades into the background of your daily life, but over time, it weakens your discipline, drains your resilience, and destroys your ability to focus, take action, and grow. This trap is instant gratification. At first, you barely notice it. It begins with small decisions. You skip a workout because you're tired. You choose comfort food instead of nourishing your body. You watch one more episode instead of going to bed. You open the fridge even when you're not hungry. These actions happen without much thought. And each time you tell yourself, it's no big deal, just once more, a few more minutes, just this time, but those moments accumulate. They turn into patterns, the patterns become habits, and before long you've trained yourself to respond to discomfort, cravings, and impulses with a quick fix, a hit of relief, a shortcut, a dopamine rush, anything to avoid the difficult task. The more you give in to this habit, the weaker your self-control becomes. The more you seek comfort now, the harder it gets to handle challenges later. What was once difficult turns impossible. What was once a conscious decision becomes automatic. What was once a choice becomes your identity. Instant gratification doesn't just steal your time. It rewires your brain. It conditions you to link effort with pain, teaches you to avoid resistance, and rewards you for inactivity. Over time, it destroys the qualities essential for success: discipline, patience, grit, resilience, clarity, and long-term thinking. It convinces you that satisfaction must be immediate, growth should be easy, and discomfort is something to escape rather than overcome. Once this mindset sets in, you stop pushing yourself, stop striving, and stop building. Because growth takes time, progress feels slow, and results come gradually, not instantly. Most people don't endure this process, not because they lack ability, but because they have trained themselves to crave quick fixes, easy wins, and immediate rewards. They start projects, but rarely finish them. They set goals, but give up after a couple of weeks. Motivation spikes briefly, but fades as soon as things become uncomfortable. This is the reality of instant gratification. It's not just a distraction, it's a thief. Instant gratification steals your potential and dulls your drive for more. It convinces you to settle, to shrink back, and to pick immediate comfort over lasting reward. The more you give in, the further you drift away from the person you're truly capable of becoming. But here's the good news. You can retrain your mind, rebuild your discipline, undo the damage, and reclaim your focus, energy, and clarity. However, this won't happen by chance. It requires effort, awareness, and a readiness to face the discomfort you've been avoiding. The solution to instant gratification isn't about doing more, it's about doing what truly matters, even when you don't feel like it. It's about choosing discomfort now so you can enjoy freedom later. It's about postponing pleasure, not because you enjoy pain, but because you value progress. You need to unlearn this conditioning. You must resist the urge to grab the quick fix. You need to create new habits, habits that reward effort, encourage patience, and keep you connected to the long-term vision, because the real rewards lie in the long game. You have to change how you view gratification. It's not about avoiding pleasure forever. It's about earning it, aligning your rewards with your values. It's about building the life you want, not escaping the one you have. Once you make this shift and start rewiring your brain to link satisfaction with effort, growth, and mastery, everything changes. You stop chasing short-term thrills and begin building a legacy. Instant gratification isn't a new phenomenon. It's part of human nature, a survival mechanism meant to keep us safe, fed, and comfortable. In ancient times, immediate rewards made sense. If you found food, you ate it. If you sensed danger, you ran. If you were cold, you sought shelter. Survival depended on quick responses to discomfort. But times have changed. The world we live in now does not reward impulsive actions. It punishes them. In today's world of abundance, what once helped us now harms us. The instinct to avoid pain leads to weakness. The urge to seek comfort causes stagnation. The drive to chase rewards without effort leads to addiction. Today, everything's available instantly. You can press a button and be entertained or comforted. You can avoid effort and still get a dopamine boost. You can skip challenges and still feel stimulated. But each time you do this, you trade long-term strength for short-term pleasure. The more you repeat it, the more your brain rewires itself to expect rewards without effort, to seek escape instead of engagement, and to crave stimulation over true satisfaction. Worse, this becomes normal. It feels like just how things are. But it isn't. This is a distortion. The truth is, gratification without growth is hollow. Comfort without effort is meaningless. Pleasure without purpose is destructive, because nothing valuable, lasting, or meaningful is created instantly. It is built through repetition, endurance, and sacrifice. If you want to regain your ability to grow, focus, and succeed, you must unlearn the habit of choosing easy wins. You have to rebuild your tolerance for delayed gratification. This means training yourself to wait, to endure discomfort, and to pick the difficult path now for the sake of something greater later. This all begins with awareness. You start noticing the pattern, the impulse, the moment when you want to check out, when your mind searches for something easier, faster, something that demands less from you. That's the signal. It's the moment you've trained yourself to respond to automatically. But now you pause, you observe, you breathe, and you ask, what am I trying to avoid right now? What discomfort am I unwilling to face? Most of the time, the answer is simple. Boredom, tiredness, insecurity, frustration. Yet it's in these small moments that the battle is won or lost. Overcoming instant gratification isn't just about willpower, it's about identity. You start changing how you see yourself. You stop saying, I'm lazy, or I can't focus, or I'm addicted to comfort. Instead, you say, I do hard things. I value growth. You become someone who shows up when it matters. Because every time you choose discipline over distraction, you strengthen that identity. Every time you delay gratification, you teach your brain that effort isn't to be avoided, it's to be embraced. Every time you pick the hard path over the easy one, you grow stronger. This isn't about becoming a monk or removing all joy from life. It's about controlling your impulses, not being controlled by them. It's about deciding when to rest, when to indulge, and when to relax, rather than being pulled into those choices by habit or emotion. You begin rewiring your responses, one small moment at a time. When you feel like quitting, you keep going. When you're tempted to procrastinate, you start anyway. When you want the reward, you earn it first. At first, it won't feel natural, and that's okay. You're not seeking comfort, you're seeking change. You create friction around distractions. You make them harder to reach. You remove temptations from your environment. You build systems that make discipline easier. Success isn't about having more willpower. It's about needing less. It's about designing a life that supports your goals, not your habits. As you do this, your mindset shifts. The things you once craved lose their hold. The things you once avoided become easier to face. You begin to feel the power of saying no, the confidence of following through, and the clarity of choosing your future over your feelings. Through this process, your capacity grows. You learn to sit with discomfort longer. You stop running whenever things get tough. You no longer need constant stimulation. You start appreciating stillness, effort, silence, and the slow progress of growth, because that's where real life happens. That's where transformation starts, not in quick thrills or escapes, but in moments of choice. When every part of you wants to quit, but you stay. When you crave relief, but you choose the harder path. It's in these moments that character is built. It's in these moments that confidence is earned. Because you're no longer ruled by cravings, you're leading yourself. And leadership begins with leading yourself. It begins with mastering your impulses. This requires time and patience, but also a clear standard, a firm decision that certain behaviors, patterns, and shortcuts are no longer acceptable. You stop bargaining with your goals, and you stop making excuses for why this one time doesn't matter. Because every time matters. Every choice matters. Each moment of hesitation is a chance to reinforce or weaken your standard. When you live like this, holding the line day after day, you become unstoppable. You're no longer dependent on motivation, no longer addicted to comfort, and no longer distracted by temptation. You become built for endurance, discipline, and genuine success. Instant gratification thrives in silence. It works best when you're not paying attention, when you're on autopilot, moving through your day and responding to every craving, impulse, or small resistance with an automatic yes. That's how it wins. Not through battle, but quietly, with a whisper, an unnoticed reach, a subtle bargain, just one more, just this once, since you've earned it. The damage doesn't happen all at once. It builds slowly, gradually, day by day, the late nights, missed workouts, unchecked spending, impulsive choices, emotional reactions. These add up. Then one day you wake up and wonder why your goals feel out of reach, why your energy is scattered, why your confidence has faded. This is the truth. Small choices shape your life, and most are made without awareness. That's why presence matters. That's why you can't afford to go through your day asleep at the wheel. Every moment you drift is a moment surrendered to the pull of the easy path. You must start paying attention. Slow down enough to notice the moment before the moment, the second before you pick up your phone, the moment before you hit snooze, the gap between craving and action. That tiny window is where your future is shaped. It's fragile and fleeting, but if you can step into it, if you can catch yourself there and pause, you give yourself power, you break the cycle, gain control, and move from reacting to responding. And in that shift, you begin to reclaim control. But what most people do instead is justify. They rationalize, explain away their choices. It's not a big deal. I'll get back on track tomorrow. This won't matter. In those moments, they trade integrity for relief, progress for comfort, and their future for a few seconds of escape. Then they repeat it again and again until it becomes normal, until their word loses meaning, until their self-trust erodes. Not because they're weak or broken, but because they haven't trained themselves to delay gratification, haven't built the habit of standing firm in discomfort. This all comes down to your relationship with discomfort. Instant gratification isn't about the phone, the food, or the TV. It's about refusing to sit with something hard. It's about the instinct to avoid tension instead of pushing through it. You need to rewire that instinct, retrain your system, teach yourself that discomfort is not danger, that craving is not command, and that impulse is not identity. It starts with creating small moments of resistance on purpose, micro challenges, friction, and intentional pauses. That might mean setting a timer before opening your favorite app, waiting 10 minutes before acting on a craving, doing 5 push-ups when you feel like lying down, or taking 3 deep breaths before reacting to frustration. This isn't about punishment, it's about rewiring. You're training your nervous system to slow down. You're teaching your brain not to respond to every impulse. And the more you practice this, the stronger and more resilient you become. Less triggered, less reactive, more grounded. You're no longer a slave to your impulses. You're becoming someone who chooses, leads, and holds the line. It's not glamorous. It won't earn applause. No one will pat you on the back when you choose stillness over shortcuts. But you will know, you will feel the change, and that change becomes your advantage. While others chase quick fixes, you're building lasting strength. When others look for an escape, you lean in. When distractions pull others away, you focus on your craft. That difference isn't luck or timing, it's repetition. Every time you say no to the easy choice, you say yes to something greater. You say yes to clarity, mastery, peace, and the confidence that comes from self-respect. That's the true reward for holding the line. You begin to redefine what reward means. If you don't, your brain will default to what's fast, loud, and convenient. You must train yourself to link reward with results, not relief. Progress, not procrastination. That means celebrating consistency. It means tracking your effort. It means recognizing the pride that follows a day of discipline, not the momentary comfort, but the strength of knowing you did what needed to be done. That pride becomes your new high, your new addiction. The more you feed it, the stronger it grows. Your brain constantly seeks feedback. When you show it that growth is rewarding, it starts craving growth, challenge, and the next level, not because it's easy, but because it's meaningful. But this only works if you're honest. You must stop lying to yourself. Stop calling procrastination rest. Stop calling avoidance self-care. Stop using clever words to justify your patterns. It's not about being perfect, it's about being real. Nothing changes until your language changes. If your story centers on escaping pain, you'll never make peace with progress. You'll run as soon as things get hard, and hard is where breakthroughs happen. So start catching your stories. Ask better questions. Not how do I feel right now, but what do I want most? Not do I want to do this, but who do I want to become? Not what's the easiest way out, but what's the most aligned next step? Those questions change everything. Now, you're not just reacting, you're leading. You're building internal structure where there was chaos. Structure frees you because discipline is not a cage. It's a system that protects you from your lower impulses. A wall that blocks distractions so you can build something meaningful. Instant gratification has no place in that system because it doesn't serve you, support you, or strengthen you. Once you see that clearly, once you stop romanticizing quick fixes and start embracing the slow climb, you'll notice something. Your mind quiets, your choice is clear, your execution sharpens, you're no longer pulled in 10 directions, you're lined. Instant gratification is a thief in disguise. It steals not just your discipline, not just your time, not just your progress, it steals your capacity to endure. And those who achieve greatness, who master their craft, who build lasting success, all share one thing in common. They endure longer than most are willing to. They sit in the quiet longer, delay comfort longer, stay focused when others fold. That endurance isn't genetic. It's not talent. It's not some mystical gift only the elite are born with. It's the result of habits, training, and hundreds of reps where they said no to comfort and yes to growth. It's forged in repetition, in friction, in the refusal to take the easy way out. You build that kind of endurance by challenging yourself on purpose. Not once a year, not only when things fall apart, but every day. Through discipline, through constraint, through repetition. You build it in the tiny decisions no one sees. The 5 a.m. alarm, skipping dessert, the extra rep, the difficult conversation you chose to have. It's not dramatic, it's not glamorous, but it's transformational because you're not just doing hard things, you're becoming someone for whom hard things are normal. You're changing your relationship with discomfort. And once that relationship changes, your possibilities expand. You start to realize something. The goal isn't to feel good in the moment. The goal is to feel aligned. And alignment doesn't always feel comfortable. Sometimes it feels like silence, like waiting, like restraint. But the deeper satisfaction that follows, nothing compares to that. Nothing compares to looking back and knowing you chose the long road when the short one was right there. Anyone can choose the easy way once, but only a few can consistently choose the meaningful way. If you want to build a life that matters, create work that lasts, become someone you're truly proud of, you have to become one of the few. You have to see instant gratification for what it really is. A lie, a trap, a story you've been told that says you should always feel good, always feel ready, always feel pleasure. But life doesn't work like that. Mastery doesn't work like that. Growth doesn't work like that. Growth is boring. Sometimes it's repetitive, lonely, slow. There are no guarantees, no applause breaks. For long stretches, it looks like nothing is working. But beneath the surface, everything is changing. Every day you show up, your foundation gets stronger. Every day you follow through, your mind gets quieter. Every day you delay gratification, your future gets closer. And if you stay in that process long enough, you begin to see the payoff, the compounding, the separation. Where others dropped off, you stayed. Where others gave up, you grew up. Now the gap is visible. Now the distance is real. Now the results can't be ignored. But you don't get there by hoping. You don't get there by getting fired up once a year. You get there by shifting your standard, by raising the bar on what you expect from yourself, not occasionally, but consistently, because your standards determine your default, and your default determines your direction. When your standard is high, shortcuts become irrelevant. When your standard is high, temptation becomes noise. When your standard is high, comfort isn't an option. It's a warning sign, a signal that you're moving backward, shrinking, not being who you're capable of being. So how do you raise your standard? You start by getting sick of your own patterns. You stop sugarcoating. You stop making excuses. You stop saying it's not that bad. If it's keeping you from your potential, it is that bad. If it's making you smaller, it is that bad. If it's building habits that work against your future, it is that bad. You draw a line. You decide this version of me is over. Not in a month, not when you feel like it now. Because change doesn't begin when conditions are perfect. Change begins when your standard becomes non-negotiable. And then you reinforce it, not with emotion, not with hype, but with action, with rituals, with systems, with daily decisions that say, this is who I am now. You don't have to feel like it. You don't have to believe it yet. You just have to act like it. And the belief will follow. The feeling will catch up. This is why discipline matters. Not because it makes you better than anyone else, but because it aligns you with the life you say you want. Because it's how you close the gap between intention and execution, potential and progress, who you were and who you're becoming. Every time you choose the long game, you're voting for that version of yourself. Every time you delay gratification, you're casting a ballot for your future. Every time you push through resistance, you're proving you're not a prisoner of old patterns. And that proof compounds, that identity strengthens, until one day you don't even recognize the old you, the one who needed comfort, the one who needed distraction, the one who needed stimulation just to get through the day. That version's gone. Replaced by someone sharper, stronger, clearer, more grounded. Someone no longer pulled by impulse, but guided by principle. Someone no longer searching for motivation, but built on integrity. Someone no longer addicted to the shortcut, but committed to the climb. That's who you're building. This isn't just about changing habits or getting more done. It's about becoming someone worth trusting. Someone you look in the mirror and respect. Not because you're perfect, but because you're real, because you're consistent, because you show up when it counts. The real battle with instant gratification starts after you've made progress. When momentum is building and things feel good, comfortable even, and that's when temptation comes back stronger. Not as an obvious distraction, but a subtle whisper. You've earned it. That's where many lose their edge. They confuse progress with permission, momentum with mastery, and start relaxing just a little. They stop being sharp. They stop guarding their time. They let small compromises slip through. And before long, their standard drops without them even noticing. That's the danger of success, not failure. Success makes you soft if you let it. And the gateway drug is comfort. The more comfort you accumulate, the more likely you are to trade discipline for ease, focus for entertainment, growth for pleasure. You stop building, you start consuming. It feels innocent, like a break, but that break turns into a pattern. That pattern turns into your new normal. And now you're not just stalling, you're reversing. Not with a crash, but with a drift. Quiet, gradual, invisible until it's too late. This is why consistency must outlive motivation. This is why your standard must outlast your results. Because the moment you tie your habits to how well things are going, you become unstable, fragile, reactive, and the work you did to build strength starts to erode. You have to build a system that keeps your edge sharp even when life is good, especially when life is good. You don't stop doing what got you there just because you've arrived. You double down. You keep your morning routine. You keep your discipline. You keep your rituals, not because you need them every day, but because you know what happens when you stop. Discipline is not seasonal. It's not something you bring out only when you feel behind. It's a way of life. It's the framework that allows you to grow when others plateau. It's the force that protects your future when comfort tries to steal it. Because comfort is not the enemy, but it becomes one when you no longer control it, when it starts making decisions for you, pulling you away from the life you were building and into the trap of maintenance. And maintenance is dangerous because it feels responsible. It feels stable. But if you're not growing, you're decaying. If you're not climbing, you're drifting. If you're not sharpening your standard, your old patterns will creep back in. You have to stay vigilant. You have to audit your habits even when things are working. You have to ask yourself, what am I tolerating now that I would have never tolerated 6 months ago? Where have I gotten sloppy? Where have I let ease replace effort? The moment you spot it, you correct it. You don't spiral. You don't beat yourself up. You get honest. You course correct. You remind yourself, progress doesn't justify compromise. Momentum doesn't replace maintenance. Results don't replace rituals. You keep doing the work, you keep showing up, you keep saying no to the quick hit, not because you don't deserve rest, but because you know because you remember how hard it was to get here, and you're not willing to let it slip through your fingers. Here's what happens when you live that way. You stop needing hype to stay consistent. You stop chasing motivation. You stop waiting for things to feel right. Your actions become automatic. Your habits become identity. Your consistency becomes legacy. That's when you start separating, not just from who you used to be, but from everyone else. Because most people only perform when it's urgent, when it's exciting, when the pressure is on. But you perform because it's who you are, because it's what you do, because you've built yourself that way. That kind of consistency compounds quietly, invisibly, but powerfully. It makes you better at things other people don't even think about. It gives you clarity when others are lost. It gives you structure when others are scattered. It gives you peace when others are chasing the next high. Because you're not chasing anymore. You're building, you're leading, you're reinforcing your standard every day, one choice at a time. That's what real discipline looks like. It's not loud, it's not flashy, it's consistent, it's quiet, it's unshakable, but you have to protect it, not from enemies, but from yourself, from your lower impulses, from your old wiring, from the voice that whispers, it's okay to let up just a little, because a little becomes a lot. A moment becomes a habit. So you catch that voice early. You say, not today. You say, that's not who I am anymore. And you act in alignment with your highest standard, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. You teach yourself again and again that the pain of discipline is always smaller than the pain of regret, that a moment of effort is always worth more than a moment of relief, that every choice you make is either building your future or taking from it. That's the truth most people never face. Every decision matters, not just the big ones, but the small ones, the quiet ones, the ones you think don't count. Because those are the ones that shape you. That's where character is built, where discipline is tested, where identity is forged. The most dangerous thing about instant gratification is that it disguises itself as relief, as reward, as self-care. It shows up when you're tired and says, just take a break. It shows up when you're overwhelmed and says, just give yourself some grace. It shows up when you're on the edge of a breakthrough and says, this isn't worth it. There's an easier way. And the more you listen, the more it wins. It doesn't take your goals from you all at once. It chips away at them, one compromise at a time, one late night, one promise broken, one excuse accepted, until you wake up and realize you've drifted from the life you were building. And even worse, you've started to rationalize it. You tell yourself, this is good enough. I've done okay. I'm doing more than most people. And while there's nothing wrong with gratitude, there's a difference between being grateful and being complacent. One feeds your spirit, the other kills your drive. So ask yourself, have I been honest? Am I living at the edge of my potential, or have I been coasting? Have I been lowering the bar just enough to stay comfortable, but still feel productive? Because that middle ground is where dreams go to die. Not in failure, but in comfort. The enemy of greatness isn't struggle. It's mediocrity disguised as stability. It's the subtle belief that you've done enough, that you're above the basics, that you don't need to push anymore. But the moment you stop pushing, you start fading. Because growth is not neutral. You're either ascending or descending. If you've ever seen someone with incredible potential stall out, it wasn't because they couldn't keep going. It was because they stopped wanting more. Because the dopamine from small wins seduced them, because the praise from others convinced them they were finished, because the pull of comfort was louder than the call to continue. You have to protect your hunger, not just in the beginning, but especially when you've started to taste progress. Because the climb gets harder when you start to see results. Now you've got something to lose. Now you've built a reputation. Now people have expectations, and that pressure can either refine you or make you retreat. The way you handle pressure says everything about you. Most people avoid it. They lighten their load, slow their pace, try to maintain what they've built instead of building more. But the elite, they use pressure. They use it to lock in, to get sharper, to eliminate distractions. Because pressure exposes what comfort conceals. Do you train for pressure? You train your nervous system to stay calm when your schedule gets crazy. You train your focus to sharpen when the stakes are high. You train your habits to hold when emotions spike. And that training begins with one habit, the habit of choosing long-term over short-term. It's a muscle. And like any muscle, it only grows through use. Every time you want to quit and don't, you strengthen it. Every time you feel the pull to escape and choose to engage, you reinforce it. Every time you bypass the quick win for the long game, you upgrade it. Eventually, it becomes who you are. You don't need to remind yourself to stay disciplined. It's just what you do. You don't have to hype yourself up to make the right decision. You built a system that makes the right decision automatic. That's the power of identity. Because at a certain point, success isn't about effort, it's about alignment. When your actions, your words, your thoughts, and your identity are aligned, you don't have to grind so hard. You don't have to force every breakthrough. Your life begins to flow in the direction of your design. But that only happens when the identity is real, and you only build that identity through habits that contradict your lower self. You become disciplined by doing disciplined things. You become focused by removing distraction. You become consistent by showing up when you don't feel like it. And those moments, the hard ones, the lonely ones, the boring ones, those are the ones that shape you, that define you, that separate you. Because everyone looks good when it's easy, but who are you when it's hard? Who are you when no one's watching? Who are you when comfort calls your name? That's the real test. And that's the real reward. The confidence that comes from knowing that you passed it, that you didn't fold, that you didn't sell out for a temporary high, that you held the line, that you honored the vision even when the feeling faded. Because feelings fade, motivation fades, but standard stays. And if your standard is high enough, you will win, not once, but repeatedly. Not quickly, but sustainably. Not through intensity, but through alignment. And the people who live at that level, they don't live there by accident. They designed it. They earned it. They bled for it. They rewired themselves to delay gratification, to love the process, to find joy in the work instead of the outcome. That's what greatness is made of. So you need to decide right now what kind of life you're going to build. A life that bends to your emotions, or a life that's grounded in principle? A life that's governed by comfort, or a life that's defined by purpose? That decision is not made once. It's made daily in the smallest choices, in the quietest moments, in the seconds where no one would blame you for slipping, but you don't. Not because you're perfect, but because you're clear. And when clarity becomes habit, and habit becomes identity, and identity becomes lifestyle, that's when success becomes inevitable. Not guaranteed, not easy, but inevitable. Because you're no longer hoping, you're living the habits that make it happen. If there's one truth you carry from this entire message, let it be this. Instant gratification is not harmless. It is not neutral. It is not a small compromise. It is a decision with direction. And that direction is always away from your potential. Because every time you choose ease over effort, comfort over clarity, pleasure over purpose, you are not just making a temporary trade. You are shaping your character. You are writing the script your future will read from. You are setting the tone for who you become. And the people who win long-term, they aren't lucky. They aren't superhuman. They simply decided to stop answering to impulse and start leading with identity. They realize that success is never the result of one massive choice. It's the compound effect of tiny decisions repeated over time. This is about who you are becoming, not just what you are doing. You're not just changing your schedule, you're changing your standard. You're not just showing up with more effort, you're showing up with more alignment. You're not just building better habits, you're building a stronger identity. You don't need more information, you don't need another motivational video, you don't need to wait for the perfect time. What you need is repetition, what you need is consistency, what you need is to lock in the behaviors that build long-term freedom, even when they don't feel good in the short term. Because real freedom doesn't come from escaping discipline. It comes from living inside it, from knowing you have the power to say no, the power to wait, the power to endure discomfort because you trust yourself to hold the line. You've seen the cost of the shortcut. You've seen the toll of distraction. You've felt the weight of being out of alignment with your goals. And you know how good it feels to take control again, to do the hard thing, to be proud of your decisions, not because they were easy, but because they were right. That pride, it's worth more than any hit of instant pleasure. That peace you feel when you follow through is deeper than any comfort you've ever reached for. And that confidence you gain when your actions and your standards finally match, it's unshakable. So decide every day. Decide to show up differently. Decide to honor the future, not the craving. Decide to lead yourself when no one else is looking. Decide to walk away from the comfort that's holding you back and toward the resistance that's going to set you free. And when you do, you will discover a version of yourself that doesn't fold under pressure, that doesn't chase shortcuts, that doesn't need a quick win to stay in the game,